Today we're going to dive into each of the 16 personalities and the type of villains they could become if they went down the wrong path. Which villain are you most likely to be? Let's find out. No one's a villain like ESTPs. Typically a cool type, both charming and feisty, the ESTPs let their spontaneity and thrill-seeking take the lead in their villainous role. Now, oftentimes the ESTP villain will be trying to impress others through their amazing feats or actions. Villainy is just as much about enjoying themselves as it is accomplishing something. They are showing off in their badness. I mean, in their eyes, they might not even be a villain and instead see themselves as the hero. Now, we can see this type of villain in characters like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He's the muscle man who eats 5 dozen eggs a day. That's like way too much cholesterol. He only wants to protect his town from the big scary beast, right? At least that's the story he's sticking to. When you think of a villain, you usually think of someone with a grand plan, a scheme, an end goal, but this couldn't be further from the truth for the ESFP villains out there. ESFPs, just like girls, just want to have fun. More specifically, ESFPs want to experience all that life has to offer, and so if they dip their toes into the darker joys in life, it may be hard for them to come back to the light. So after they get a taste of a slightly villainous act, they might want to step it up to the next level so they can feel a whole new level of excitement. First, maybe they rob someone, and then they knock off a convenience store, and then a bank, and then they steal the Hope Diamond, all while laughing their butts off. Or maybe they're not even intentionally being evil, but it just so happens that their fun is what other people consider bad, evil. Think of a villain like Sid from the original Toy Story movie who tortures toys just for fun. But honestly, how is he supposed to know that the toys were alive? In some ways, the toys had it coming. They deserve it. In his mind, he's just having a good time with these inanimate objects. Can't a guy just have a good time? Now, the ISTJ villain is one who lives by a set of rules. And you best believe they will do everything in their power to enforce those rules. They are what happens when you take the good intentions out of structure and order and use them for bad purposes. To the villainous ISTJ, people aren't people. They're just numbers who are part of the ISTJ's complex machinery. Not literal machinery. Machinery of the system. ISTJs, they don't need to order anyone to do anything. If the machine is well oiled and if it's functioning as intended, then those who show an ounce of defiance will be silenced before they ever get the chance to think in a way that opposes the ISTJ, much less act against the ISTJ. A good example of this would be the villain from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. His goal is to enforce the system in such a strict way that he retains all the power while never giving others a chance. Quasimodo, he just needed a chance, man. Just let him out of that bell tower. I mean, I know he's ugly, but still, come on. ISFJs are the types of villains that you never knew were there because they desire no spectacle and they leave little trace, just like good campers. They are the kind of person who's gonna watch and observe your daily habits patiently for days or weeks to the point where they know your favorite restaurant, what drink you always order, and what to put in it to get you without you ever even knowing it. Now, ISFJs can blend into almost any environment, and that is their greatest strength as a villain, because they're the villain you never gonna expect, and that's how they get away with it, or almost get away with it if he's on a Scooby-Doo mystery. So for this one, I'm gonna approach this a little bit differently. Think of the murder mystery board game Clue. There are 6 suspects, 1 victim, and no one knows who the villain is. Who killed the guy? I don't know. Everyone's got to work together to figure it out because the ISFJ, he just blended into the background. But you know what? I suspect it was the ISFJ in the dining room with a candlestick. ESTJ villains are intense and commanding individuals who you could also think of as the grand enforcers. They take what the ISTJ does and they just like do it on crack.
Frank, are you saying ESTJ villains are literally on crack?
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. They don't just make the law and let it run its course. They are the law. Think of the Terminator. Once the law has been decided and the order sent, then he's going to pursue you and enforce it at any cost. And that's really where the ESTJ shines, on the front lines. of villainy. You could also think of them as the definition, the quintessence, the dictionary encyclopedia picture of respect my authority. And if you don't respect their authority, then they will gather their troops and devise a plan to make sure you know your place. ENTJs are a type who often shows up as a villain in fiction. They have a vision for the future and they have the skills to organize everyone and everything around them to get what they want. Now, unlike their ESTJ counterpart, the ENTJ is a bit more invested in a goal, which is what all their villainy is working towards. They prefer to make strong and decisive tactical blows to their opponents as opposed to like slowly draining them of resources over time. ENTJs, very bold villains. And also, you can be certain that with an ENTJ villain, you're never gonna have to guess who the villain is. Because when they take the villainous helm, you are gonna know their name and you are gonna fear it. Which naturally leads to perhaps one of the most well-known fictional bad dudes. I would argue that Voldemort from the Harry Potter series exemplifies an ENTJ at their most villainous. A lot of people be saying, oh, he's an INTJ. It's like, no way. Voldemort is he's just way too out there. Cool guys don't look at explosions happening directly behind them as they slowly walk away. And ISTPs don't waste time reveling in their villainous actions for too long. One word comes to mind with this type: professionalism. They get in, they get the job done, and they get out with as little spectacle as possible. This type of villain could be seen in a character like Catwoman. By the time everyone else has caught up to what she has done, she's already out of there and miles away. She doesn't want to have this big confrontation or whatever. She just wants to like get things done, get out of there. INTP villains don't usually set out to be evil, but instead what they really want to do is dive into forbidden knowledge to get a better understanding of the universe around them. So any kind of villain where it's like, don't do that, don't study that thing, don't don't try to create that potion, an INTP villain is going to be like, well, but I wanna. And then along the way we discover why he shouldn't have gone there. To the INTP, knowledge itself isn't evil, so it seems ridiculous when others tell them they can't do something because it's not moral or right, when all they want to do is understand stuff. And that's where the villainy of the INTP comes in. They are the masters of experimentation and discovery, and sometimes those thoughts and experiments can lead them to unintended consequences. Now let's get old school. Dr. Jekyll is a good example of this. He was actually experimenting to find a potion that would suppress his dark side, but it had the unintended effect of turning him into Mr. Hyde, the monstrous murderer. And of course, this is from the book Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I figure that was apparent. Now to the ESFJ, the family is everything. You are either part of the group or you aren't. As such, the ESFJ's version of being a villain is like the mob boss mentality. They take care of everyone who swears loyalty to the group, but if you dare go against the rules and traditions, there will be consequences. Now, I gotta admit to you guys, I struggled a bit with this type because there aren't a ton of villains that exemplify the ESFJ terribly well. So to illustrate this, think of Don Corleone, the Godfather. So okay, yes, technically he is not the villain in The Godfather, but still, he's the head of an organized crime family. He's not a saint. But criminal though an ESFJ may be, family is still number one. Don't go against the family. Frank, that was the worst Godfather impersonation ever. Come to the family. If you can think of a good villain example for the ESFJ or any other type that I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. Because I know for sure I'm going to get people who are like, that person isn't that type. I'm going to fight you. Now the ENFJ villain is perhaps the most charming of them all. They can pull you in with honey-covered words that speak to exactly what you want. Now their goal can also be to lift you up out of whatever struggle you might be facing and give you a purpose. But it's going to be their purpose, their villainous purpose, if you will. They believe that if their vision can help a few, then why shouldn't it help everyone? They're like, hey, yeah, I'm the villain, okay, whatever, but I feel like we all are gonna get something good out of this. So the ENFJ villains, they're doing things for the greater good, which if their mind is a little twisted, can lead them to an outcome that is not good for everyone. Now this character may not be an ENFJ, but I'm gonna kind of use him to illustrate a bit of this. If you look at Thanos, yes, YouTube's favorite villain from the Infinity Saga. So basically Thanos was like, hey, life is great, but oh crap, there's like overpopulation and stuff and people people are suffering, and hey, I know a solution that's gonna make everyone happy. We'll just like kill half of everybody. So he's the villain. It's an evil thing, killing half of everyone, but his end goal is like, oh, everyone else will be much happier. It's gonna be great for the greater good. And along the way, he recruits all of these disciples who are like, hey, Thanos, you're right. ISFPs are an interesting type of villain because they may not necessarily intend to be evil, but they just get caught up in their feelings and they just go a little too far. It's not that they want to go against others. It's just like it so happens that others don't share the same purpose as them, and well, that's not gonna work out. Look at Poison Ivy from the Batman and greater DC universe. I mean, sure, standing up for the environment is great, but like wiping out humanity is probably not the best solution for everybody. It's interesting because this is like sort of a similar thing to the type we just talked about, the ENFJ, but I think a big difference here is that the ISFP is very much a loner type of villain, whereas the ENFJ is like, hey, I gotta make sure that I have other people behind me, I've gotta recruit people to my cause, and ultimately this will be good for everyone, where the ISFP is more like, hey, this lines up with what I feel is right. If everyone else doesn't like it, they're wrong. INFP villains are often created through a tragic backstory. All right, I'm excited about this example. Think of the James Bond villain Alec Trevelyan from both the movie and the Nintendo 64 video game GoldenEye. Trevelyan wants to cause massive chaos in order to get revenge against the British government for betraying his parents. His parents are dead, very sad. His plan doesn't even really make a lot of sense. But it don't matter cause emotions. The INFP's deep feelings are what make them so dangerous as villains. With thinking type villains, at least you're coming up against logic and reason. With INFPs, the only thing that needs to make sense to them is how they feel about a situation. They remember all the wrongs that have been done to them, and they certainly have the creative potential to come up with ideas on how to get back at others. Put all this together and you have a villain that remembers the wrongs of the past, feels strongly about them, and isn't too interested in hearing your reasoning about why you made their life worse. ENTPs are the types of villains who get themselves into trouble just by asking the question, what if, a little too much? What if I could build a laser strong enough to blow up the moon? What if I was king of the entire world? What if I turned everyone into a sheep? They can be seen as agents of chaos, doing things for the sake of doing them just to shake things up a little bit. Sure, they might have some reasons for why they are doing things, but they don't necessarily have all the steps laid out. As probably the most iconic ENTP villain once said, do I really look like a guy with a plan? Of course, I'm referring to the Joker, specifically Heath Ledger's portrayal of the iconic Batman villain in The Dark Knight. He goes on in that scene to say, I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. He's just causing mayhem because why not? ENFP villains are chaotic and fun-loving, and a lot of times their villainy is emotionally motivated. They are the types of villains who want to push the world to its very limits to see how far they can bend the rules before they break. These villains often hate the status quo and are often set on destroying it. A lot of times just because they personally hate it. Sometimes they don't even have a grand master plan or even a purpose, and that is part of the reason that they can be so scary. Their desires and motivations can switch just as quickly as their emotions, and if you know ENFPs at all, that can be pretty quick. Think of Syndrome from The Incredibles. He hates superheroes because he personally couldn't become one, so he starts killing off superheroes one by one. Then he switches plans and decides to spread weapons that will make everyone a superhero because according to him, when everyone's super, no one will be. His plan is basically, let's just cause a bunch of chaos because I feel like it. The INFJ villain is the whisper in your ear, the gentle and guiding hand that points you in the direction they want you to go. They know what you want and they know how to use that to get what they want. Some might see them as an advisor and some might see them as their leader, but at the end of the day, the INFJ villain is the one planting insight and ideas into the minds of those around them who can shape the world into their liking. For an example of a villain that exemplifies these traits, look at Iago. No, not the parrot. That's right, for the INFJ, we're going back to Shakespeare and the play Othello. The character Iago is probably Shakespeare's best villain, if not like literature's top 10 best villains. One of his lines that exemplifies this INFJ villainy is, I am not what I am. In other words, he has tricked everyone else into thinking he's this great, honest, dependable guy. Meanwhile, he is addicted to manipulating everyone around him and using them in his plot to take down Othello, who thinks he and Iago are tight. Othello thinks Iago's his home dog, but I hate to break it to you, Othello, he is not. INFJ villains might not be the ones getting their hands dirty, but why would they want to be when they can easily convince someone else to take action and risk for them? Last but certainly not least, we have the type most known for being villains all across fiction, the INTJ. Like, if you search for any villain and MBTI, Google's gonna tell you half the time that they are INTJ. So why is this? Why is the quintessential villain character kind of like an INTJ? Well, how about their intricate plans and schemes that span years, if not decades? How about the spider webs they set for their victims while they patiently sit back and wait for their prey to just come in and get stuck in the web? Oh. Well, how about the cold calculating gaze that tells you they are 10 steps ahead of you? So the INTJ is the mastermind, and that's why you see villains kind of with that personality type so much. They don't usually have the people skills of the INFJ, so their strength usually lies in manipulating the variables and resources they have in a careful and patient manner to get what they want. They are most known for their long-term thinking, which is what allows them to work from the shadows so that their villainous plots can unfold over time. INTJs also tend to be a bit colder than their close cousins, the ENTJs, who are the types of villain who can get really hung up on a personal vendetta against one individual, usually the hero. INTJs, if they are focused in on one person, it's just because you're an obstacle that they need to eliminate, nothing personal. A classic example of this INTJ type of villain is the Dark Lord Palpatine from Star Wars. He's out there working from the shadows, having others do his dirty work with a plan that stretches for decades and encompasses the whole galaxy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay cool and attractive.
They say strangers come to town.